Hello, hello, everybody. So, we are joining you to change the conversation. We're changing it. You
Yeah.
ready? You ready, everybody? So, my name is Hala Citron with I Am Creative and Express Yourself Publishing. And before I introduce TJ Walsh and we have the conversation that we're going to have, and we welcome you to, of course, put any questions or comments in the chat box, I want to open this up with, and I'm looking down to make sure that I say this correctly. what what TJ is doing is so powerful. And we're all leaders. So we are all leaders. Whether you think of yourself in this position or not, this is the whole point of this summit. And this is why the conversation needs to change. And we're all creative beings. That may be a trigger word for people, but we are all creative because you have the ability to be expressive. You have the ability to tell a story. You have the ability to use your imagination. You're curious, all of these things that we're going to discuss. You are a creative being. We all have the ability to tell stories that have strength to alter and have a positive influence. So, TJ, thank you for creating this space of the Grow Leadership Summit. And why don't you introduce yourself and let's just start this conversation?
Sure. So, first of all, Hollis, I'm so excited that you're bringing me on to talk about this event that I have coming up. But really, more than an event, it's like you said, in an effort to change the conversation, to bring awareness to anyone who hears this or who sees any of my Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn spam, that you have the ability to be a leader in your community or in your home or your classroom, wherever you are. I've been saying, as I've been putting this stuff out there, that, so many of us see ourselves as just another artist or just another teacher, just another student, just another parent, or just like another rando person walking around the world with nothing really to give, right? Like, how are they going to, what do I have to give? How can I actually change how we experience the world we're in? But, we kid ourselves because we don't believe we're creative people. That's been beaten out of us. Or we don't believe that we have the ability to be leaders because we misunderstand what the concept of a leader is, or what the role of a leader is in community and relationship with people. And while we're all kind of trying to avoid taking those roles on or accepting the fact that we are those things, the world is kind of burning down around us in some ways, and that is maybe a pessimistic statement, but it kind of is not totally, but there are some significant challenges that we're facing, and I don't think we've been really approaching them in some of the best ways that we can approach them.
And I think with what you're saying, I mean, it's a human term, but I guess you and I both being visual artists, there's the contrast.
Yes.
So there's the contrast, and this is used in many terminology, spiritual mindset, all of this. The contrast. You have the beautiful, and you have the not so beautiful. So there is so much beauty in the world. There is so much beauty in physical beauty, in kindness of humans. There's in actions being taken, in compassion. There's so much of that. But then there's also the scary, the dark, and the complicated. And here we have so much emotion. We as humans are blessed with emotion. But then there's kind of the contrast in that there's emotion and there's numbness. We get so numb to all of this going on because we're being bombarded, like you said, we're being bombarded all the time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's just this idea that changing this conversation, in being leaders, in stepping up, in changing our perspective, in recognizing the beauty, in noticing the things that aren't going so well and saying, you know what, I'm a regular person, but the words that I use, how I present my ideas, how I have conversations with people, the steps, the actions I take make a difference.
Yeah. Yeah, the idea of the of contrast is something that I experience every day in the work that I do, with human beings. So for those of you who don't know me, I am a licensed psychotherapist, in private practice, and I'm also, a artist and creative leadership coach. And so I work with people every day in conversation, in relationship, and we face the tension or the contrasts that is our experience as people. And so on one hand, while I'm saying like the world is, there's also a lot of other things that are so good and beautiful. And while you were talking, Hollis, I was reminded, and I quickly Googled it. Um, a spoken word song poem, by the poet musician Kay Tempest, who's a British artist, and they have this poem that is called "People's Faces," and it's something that I go to all of the time. I'm drawn back to it all the time, and some of the lyrics just remind me of what you were just talking about and where we're going with this conversation. I'll just read a few of the lyrics.
Yeah.
It starts out, "It's coming to pass. My country's coming apart. The whole thing's becoming such a bumbling farce. Was that a pivotal historical moment we just went stumbling past? Here we are, dancing in the rumbling dark, so come a little closer, give me something to grasp, give me your beautiful crumbling heart. Another disaster, catharsis, another half discarded mirage, another mask slips. I face off with the physical, my head's ringing from the love of the stars. There is too much pretense here, and too much depends on the fragile wages and extortionate rents here. We're working every dread day that is given us, feeling like the person people meet really isn't us. Like we're going to buckle underneath the trouble, like any minute now, the struggle's going to finish us. And then we smile at all our friends. It's hard. We got our heads down and our hackles up, our backs against the wall. I can feel you aching. None of this is written in stone. There is nothing we're forbidden to know, and I can feel things changing. Even when I'm weak and I'm breaking, I'll stand weeping at the train station because can see your faces. There's so much peace to be found in people's faces. I saw it roaring. I felt it clawing at my clothes like a grieving friend. It said, there are no new beginnings until everybody sees that the old ways need to end. But
Mm,
it's hard to accept that we're all one and the same flesh, given the rampant divisions between oppressor and oppressed. But we are, though. More empathy, less greed, more respect. All I've got to say has already been said. I mean, you heard it from yourself when you were lying in your bed and couldn't sleep, thinking, couldn't we be couldn't we be doing this differently? I'm listening to every little whisper in the distance singing hymns, and I can feel things changing. But it's so hard. We got our heads down and our hackles up, our backs against the wall. I can feel your heart racing. None of this is written in stone. The current's fast, but the river moves slow, and I can feel things changing. And they go um, on and on for a while there in that same tone. But the words that really stick out to me in their poem there are, but it's hard to accept we're all one and the same flesh given the rampant divisions between oppressor and oppressed, but we are, though, more empathy, less greed, more respect. And so that's really, how I view leadership, is more empathy, less greed, more respect, bringing people together in community, in relationship to do good work together,
mm,
so that when we feel things changing, we can actually see things change,
mm,
right?
mm,
um, and whether that is, the fact that the way we run our education system, and my partner, my wife, is a public school teacher, so I love public school teachers, but they are forced into this box, right? And these schools become more institutions instead of giving kids the ability to embrace their playful freedom, right? And so we're going to talk with some people at the summit about how to maybe think differently and break some of these kids free from this, right? Our world likes to hide behind labels of trauma informed or language of trauma informed, but it ends up causing more trauma in return. So
Mm.
how can we come up with different language around that? Feigning sympathy, but we can't find empathy. Let's find empathy, right? Um, the neighbors fighting neighbors and communities crumbling. How do we intervene and bring resolution to the conflict through the use of our creativity, our art? Val Gay is going to come and talk about a project that she did in her own neighborhood at some point in the past. How broken dishes helped rebuild a neighborhood, right? How this project really transformed and brought people together in ways that she didn't even expect when she
Is that
started.
mosaic?
It was mosaic, I believe, yeah, on a wall in her neighborhood, and how the kids all came around and changed the tenor of that space. Um, and there's just so much. So let me stop talking and see, what's coming up for you. I'm just excited about the possibilities for people to learn and grow and engage in their life differently after hearing some of this conversation.
Well, that's what we're here to talk about, and it's understanding, it's taking it out of this abstract concept of what it's called, the Grow Leadership Summit, and being like, okay, so why should I attend, and what's going on in this? And as we're talking, everybody, it's about this growing your leadership, expanding your understanding
Mhm.
of what creativity is and how to be a leader and how to show up,
Yeah.
and looking at some of these other things that you're taught. I'm reading some of the other things. Burnout,
Hmm.
send snacks, how practicing empathy can unleash your creativity.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So Dr. Kristen Donnelly from Abbey Research and her organization is actually sponsoring the summit, which I'm really excited about and thankful for. Um, but Kristen is such a powerhouse in terms of the research and the communication of why empathy is so important to all aspects of our life, right? But empathy is essential to creativity. Our ability to empathize, put ourselves, a simple definition that we all probably have heard one at one point or another is putting ourselves in another person's shoes. How can we imagine ourselves experiencing what another person or another group of people are experiencing?
Yeah.
um, and get in touch with that. It's so important that if we're communicating messages through our artwork, that we're aware of how other people might experience what we're putting out there. Um, Empathy is the consistent, intentional decision to ask more questions and make less assumptions. That's what Kristen says, Dr.
Mm.
Kristen Donnelly. Empathy is the consistent, intentional decision to ask more questions and make less assumptions. And that's both of yourself and other people,
Mm.
right? So she's going to give a presentation to all of us about how we can cultivate curiosity and the practice of empathy uh, will allow you to tap into your creativity in a new way, right? So whether that's creativity in like a painting studio or in a classroom or in public service, right? Practicing empathy, cultivating curiosity. Uh, how does that change the way you approach any of those things?
I love that. And these little, all it takes is you could have a conversation with somebody for 5 minutes that could change the trajectory of your life.
Yeah.
And here you're talking about this concept of making less assumptions. And who knows, maybe you could all of a sudden be inspired to write a grant, or go work for, if that's something that you do, or If you work in a company, then you're like, huh, well, maybe we could team up with this organization and we can make more of an impact this way because it would help everybody else all the way around. So that's just to expand people's thinking on how these things can, how you can go to something like this and how it can change your thinking in order to open up more possibilities and expansion.
Yeah, it's to like stir those things up in you that maybe you have had some knowledge or awareness of existing within you, or maybe not
Yeah.
at all, right? But when you hear these people who are doing great work or have awesome experiences that have changed their lives, or they've done research right into how people grow and expand and change, um, what gets lit up for you, and then how can you take some maybe even small steps but important steps to um, to just engaging life
Engage.
engaging, right? And so I'm talking about this event being for artists, or definitely and or creative leaders. Again, everybody, all creative, we're all creative. That's just the thing, right? To get our stuff together and embrace, first of all, embrace, right? Embrace our unique authenticity as creative leaders. So maybe first accepting and then embracing, right? And then through some of these presentations and conversations, we're going to sharpen your insight, right?
Mhm.
About what it is that makes you that one of a kind leader, that only exists within you. And then we're going to challenge what it means to lead with your creative superpowers. So that's that less assumption piece, right? Those making less assumptions, becoming more curious, so that you can help other human beings live better lives, right? So I'm saying this is creative leaders, creative humans helping other humans live better lives, through, first of all, sitting down and listening and interacting with these people, and then going out and figuring out what to do with that.
Getting real tangible takeaways.
Yeah, real tangible takeaways through these conversations. Yeah.
Yeah. I love this image too. And we're obviously gonna give you the links to check this out. But this whole concept of the superhero, because all of us, no matter where you live in the world, you can relate to this concept of someone wearing a cape, someone wearing a mask or not wearing a mask.
Right.
We know who you are, Superman. but but the power of the uniform, the power of the cape, and what it gives you. People can relate also to, so often I find myself saying, do you have your Wonder Woman bracelets on?
Right.
Because it's just something comes up and you're just like, that this is what she does.
Yeah.
You just
Yeah.
deflect and you protect and you, so I just love the reference. I mentioned that because I just love the reference to everybody has a cape, an imaginary cape or real cape that
Real
you put
estate. Yeah.
on, that you put on to go out and share your expertise and your wisdom.
Yeah, 100%. And are we are we putting it on when the bat signal goes up, right? Or are we, well,
Mhm.
Batman have a cape? I guess he had a little one, right? It doesn't matter. When
Yeah.
the when the bat signal goes up, are we ready to kind of take action and become curious, ask questions, make less assumptions, take steps to employ our creative problem solving skills, our ability to think critically, our ability to um, love and embrace other people in their suffering, or are we going to pretend like the cape is lost or not in existence and just go about things with our heads down, and forget to look in people's faces and see the reflection of
Mhm.
ourselves and our whole race in those people's faces, and how when we're able to connect with them, in a real way, experience that calm and that peace ourselves, right? And again, the contrast, right? There's a lot of craziness in the world that people are creating, um, but there's that contrast, that tension, that we can counter it with um, empathetic creativity as well.
There's so much to be said on it. There's so much that I can say, but I just I want people to just get a little bit more detail, just in the sense of tell them when it is,
Mm,
how many days that it is, and
all those things.
all those. Yeah.
All right, yeah, so for sure. So the Grow Creative Leadership Summit is live online, so we'll use the Zoom platform, just because I live my life on Zoom and I can just click a button and see everybody. But anyway, it's live online on the Zoom platform, November 3rd and 4th. It's a Thursday and Friday. There are 2 full days. We have, I think, more. I think I have more than 10 presentations over the course of those 2 days. So they're full days, and I realize that they're also during the week, right? So for those of you who can kind of attend all of it live, that's awesome. You can even run it in the background if you want and kind of take it in as you can. And there's the option to do that, because if you register for the event to attend live and end up missing some or wanting to go back and listen to it again, you'll get replay access for a couple of weeks that you can go back and integrate more of the content or revisit it again. So November 3rd and 4th with replay access on Zoom. And the cost of well, first of all, I've discounted it from $500 to $197.
Mhm.
But then I'm giving everyone who is seeing this and associated with you, Hollis,
Mhm.
20% off of that 197 if you use the code
Wow.
I am creative at checkout. That will get you in for a few bucks less, because I think that this um, is such valuable content, such amazing speakers um, and practitioners coming to kind of
Yeah.
draw you in and lead you along in life.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, TJ, for all of that. That is such what a savings, everybody. And when he's saying full day, I'm looking, it's from 9 to 2:50 Eastern time.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's what full day is.
Not quite full days. Yeah, maybe like 2/3 days, I don't know. But I say full days because it's a lot of content, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it's a lot of energy,
it
but
is.
it's energy worthwhile. And I think, you know, I think it's worth it.
Well, it's, you know what, everybody, it's like be the change. We
Yeah,
talk about all this stuff and we don't have power. We feel so deflated and feel so overwhelmed. But everything that you're talking about is about empowerment, is about taking baby steps in order. Look, everybody, we can't solve everybody's problems. We know that. And we can't take on everybody's, because there's an energetic realm too. We have to protect our energy, because if we become too empathic and empathetic about everything, then we lose our energy.
sure.
So, but what we're talking about here is we're talking about all these ways to become aware, to be able to take the baby steps to go A, B, maybe we go to D, maybe we zigzag in order to get to Z, so we can have a happier world. And do I sound like a hippie? Maybe. But you know what? It really does boil down to love, peace, and compassion.
Right, right. And our it's not our individual responsibility to change the world and fix
No,
what craziness is happening in all of these different
no.
locations, right? Like, that is not our job. But our job is to make an impact, make an investment in the world that is around us in our immediate um, sphere, right? How can we, because then that does ripple out, right? Whether you're talking energy rippling out or you're just talking, you know, um, actual kind of things changing in the physical space, it does ripple out to those broader things, right? So
Yes.
I'm not talking about fixing what's happening in Europe or anything like that necessarily. Maybe you are a general and you're watching this, or a politician that can have effect, but more people like us, and how can we impact and make a difference um, in our immediate environments. And also, I say in here, I'm really tired of the navel gazing and the complaining of, oh, there's nothing we can actually do to change the situations we find ourselves in, right? And I'm not just calling people out about that because I hear it everywhere. I do it too,
Mhm.
right? And so I'm creating this event for me to get some coaching and training, or coaching and education um, on all of this too, right?
Well, we are our own best clients, so
Right.
it's what we want to create what interests us. So
Yeah.
everybody, this takes community. One
Yeah.
person isn't just responsible for it all. It takes community. So we are going to give you the link. We are going to give you all the tools. Check it out. Share it, please. And what a deal, because TJ is giving you like an extra deal off of a deal. So thank you so much for TJ for coming into this space and sharing this with us. So
Yeah.
grateful to you.
Yeah. Thanks so much for giving me the opportunity to hang out and talk with you about it. And I hope to see so many of the people who see this, all of you out there, at the summit in November.
Yeah, wonderful. So everybody, thank you so much to those catching the replay. Please put your comments, any questions or comments, put them in the chat box. We will get back to you, and all the links will be there. So wish you a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and we'll talk to you soon, everybody.
Yep.
So thanks again.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.